I still remember the exact sound it made when the box hit the floor. Not loud, not dramatic, just a dull crack, the kind that only matters when you already know. Something inside has been broken forever. My son froze. He was standing in the middle of the living room, surrounded by half-torn wrapping paper and balloons that had started to sag hours ago. His small hands were still reaching forward, like his brain hadn't caught up with what his eyes had just seen. The gift was on the floor, the one he had been talking about for months, the one I saved for, the one I wrapped myself at 2 a.m. after my shift ended. And she was laughing. Not nervous laughter, not awkward laughter, real laughter, loud, careless, cruel. "Oh, relax," she said, brushing glassy fragments away with her foot. "Kids break things all the time." My sister didn't even look at my son when she said it. Around her, people chuckled. Someone made a joke about how boys shouldn't be attached to material things. Another voice added that it was probably cheap anyway. I felt my chest tighten, but before I could speak, my son whispered, "Mom, it's broken." His voice wasn't angry. It was confused. That's what hurt the most. This was supposed to be a simple birthday dinner. Nothing fancy. Just family. Just cake. Just one safe evening where my son felt seen. Instead, it became the night everything cracked open. Let me rewind a little, because none of this came out of nowhere. I had my son young. Too young, according to my family. I was 20 when I had him, unmarried, exhausted, and already written off as the disappointment. My parents didn't kick me out, but they didn't exactly make space for me either. I learned early how to survive on politeness and silence. My sister, on the other hand, had done everything right. Perfect grades, perfect marriage, perfect timing. She liked to remind people of that subtly, of course, always with a smile. When I invited everyone over for my son's birthday, she hesitated before saying yes. I heard it in her voice. That pause people take when they're deciding whether you're worth the inconvenience. But my father insisted. "He's my grandson," he said. "Of course we'll come." I cleaned the apartment top to bottom, borrowed chairs, bought decorations I couldn't afford. I wanted my son to feel proud of his home, even if it was small, even if the paint chipped near the window. The gift she broke wasn't expensive, but to him, it was everything. A model set he'd been watching videos about, one he planned to build with his hands, one he told his teacher about, one he slept talking about the night before. She picked it up earlier, turning the box around like it offended her. "This?" she said. "This is what kids are into now." Before I could answer, before I could even take it back from her hands, it slipped, or she let it slip. I still don't know which. What I do know is that no one rushed to help him when it broke. No one except me. I knelt beside my son, pulling him gently toward me, whispering that it was okay, that we'd fix it, that it was just an accident. But he kept staring at the box, not crying, just quiet. And then my sister laughed again. "Oh my God," she said, waving her hand. "Why are you acting like someone died? He'll survive." That's when I stood up. My hands were shaking, but my voice surprised me with how steady it sounded. "Please don't laugh," I said. It mattered to him. She rolled her eyes. "You're too sensitive. That's your problem. You always make things bigger than they are." Around us, forks scraped against plates. Conversations restarted, awkward and forced. Someone turned the music up slightly, as if volume could bury discomfort. That's when I noticed my father. He had been sitting at the far end of the table the entire time. Quiet. Watching. Not eating. His hands were folded together, resting on the table. And for the first time since everyone arrived, he looked old, not tired, not annoyed. Heavy. I had spent most of my life waiting for my father to step in. to defend me, to say something when my sister crossed lines that everyone pretended not to see. He never did. Until that night. He stood up slowly. The chair scraped loudly against the floor, cutting through the room. Every voice stopped. Even my sister turned, mid-smile, expecting him to say something gentle, something safe. Instead, my father did something I had never seen him do before. He reached down and removed his wedding ring. He placed it on the table. The sound it made was small metal against wood, but the room went dead silent. Then he looked at my sister and spoke. Only 4 words. "I'm done pretending," my father said. That was it. 4 words. No shouting. No drama. No speeches. But they landed heavier than anything I'd ever heard him say. My sister laughed once short and sharp, like she thought this was still a joke. "Dad, don't be ridiculous," she said. "It was an accident. You're seriously taking her side over this." My father didn't look at her immediately. Instead, he looked at my son. My child was still standing where I had left him, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the broken box, like he was trying to understand how something good could disappear so fast. My father walked toward him slowly and crouched down. "I'm sorry," he said to my son. "You didn't deserve that." My son nodded, unsure what to do with an apology from someone who had rarely spoken to him directly before. Then my father stood up again. And this time, he looked straight at my sister. "This isn't about the gift," he said calmly. "It's about who you've been for a long time." The room stayed silent. Too silent. "You mock. You belittle. You laugh when people are hurting," he continued. "And everyone lets you. Including me." My sister's smile faded. "Are you seriously attacking me right now?" she snapped. "In front of everyone." My father didn't raise his voice. "I'm finally being honest," he said. "And honesty makes people uncomfortable." She turned toward my mother for backup. Mum avoided her eyes. That's when I knew something had shifted. "You've always treated her like she was beneath you," my father said, gesturing toward me without even looking. "And tonight you did it to her child." My sister scoffed. "Oh, please. She's always playing the victim. And now she's raising him the same way." I felt my stomach drop. Before I could react, my father stepped forward. "Enough," he said. "You will not speak about them like that in my presence again." Her face flushed red. "So what? You're choosing her now?" My father didn't hesitate. Yes, that single word cracked something open in my chest. He picked up the ring from the table, turned it slowly between his fingers, then slid it into his pocket instead of back onto his hand. "I've spent years trying to keep peace," he said. "And in doing that, I allowed cruelty to pass as confidence. That ends tonight." People started shifting uncomfortably. A few stood up. Someone whispered that maybe this wasn't the time. "It's exactly the time," my father replied. He turned to my sister. "You owe them an apology. And until you learn how to treat people with respect, you're not welcome in my home." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "You're choosing them over your own daughter?" she shouted. My father looked exhausted. "I'm choosing what's right," he said. "And if you think blood excuses behavior, then you've learned nothing from this family." She grabbed her purse violently. "You're all unbelievable," she said. "This is insane." No one stopped her as she stormed out. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the picture frames. Silence followed. My father turned to me. "I should have said something years ago," he said quietly. "I didn't, and I'm sorry. I didn't know what to say." I had imagined this moment 1,000 times. Growing up, my father finally defending me, but now that it was real, all I felt was a strange mix of relief and grief. "It wasn't just me," I said softly. "It was him too." My father nodded. "I see that now," He knelt beside my son again. "Tomorrow," he said, "we're going to fix this. Or replace it. Together." My son looked up at him. "Really?" "Yes," my father said. "Really?" The rest of the night felt different. Quieter. Lighter. Like something toxic had finally been named and removed. After everyone left, my father stayed behind to help clean up. We wrapped the broken pieces carefully, not to save them, but to acknowledge what had been lost. Before he left, he paused at the door. "You did nothing wrong," he said to me. "Neither of you did." When the door closed, I sat on the couch with my son asleep against my shoulder. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. Some people think confrontation has to be loud to be powerful. They're wrong. Sometimes, all it takes is 4 quiet words spoken by the right person to change everything.